Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump, and today I'll be doing my top 5 favourite Generation 9 Pokemon. Now, Scarlet and Violet are the latest Pokemon games, and they are pretty much well known for various stuff. One of them being the amount of glitches they had on first release, and because and it got a lot of flag for that, but so far I've enjoyed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think they are very interesting, and I think they're very interesting games in terms of the lore and stuff when it comes to those games in general. Kind of like how the other games had their own lore when they first released, and then even including some of the remakes like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. When it came to the whole Delta episode, and of course, like with every other Pokemon game, in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have new Pokemon. So in today's video, I'll be going over some of my personal favourites that can be seen throughout the generation. So for number 5 is Bellibolt. Now Bellibolt, I believe, was one of the first early Pokemon that we got to see. And I think, from what I remember, the way that we saw Bellibolt was during an announcement with one of the gym leaders in the game. I believe the electric type one, who's also basically like a live stream, which I think is quite cool because, again, I think that's what makes the Pokemon games quite interesting because with this particular gym leader, it's a different way of how we see the gym leaders. And this is a very interesting way of announcing a new Pokemon because it was just like if in the previous generations it was like, oh wait, it's a new trailer for a new Pokemon, and again, yes, it was the same thing in this generation, like oh, it's just a new trailer and here's a new Pokemon. But for Bellibolt, I think the way it was introduced was quite fun because of the way that it was handled with the gym leader, with her being a live streamer and stuff like that. So I think that was quite interesting. And for its design, it looked like a very large tadpole kind of thing, and it also kind of reminds me of Wobbuffet in a way, in the sense that it's this very silly, funny design, and this one looks quite useful. It looks quite tanky and stuff like that, and it looks a really fun looking Pokemon. And also I thought, because it's got a face around here, I believe, as well as 2 eyes. Now there are eyes around the face area, but I thought the eyes looking shapes things were Bellibolt's actual eyes, but instead it's the eyes on the side of its head. There's actual eyes, which I think is quite interesting. And again, it's a really unique way of designing a Pokemon because a lot of Pokemon are basically simple. You've got Crocodile, which is basically a crocodile, but it's red, and that's a cool looking design. Then you've got Pikachu, is an electric rat, that kind of thing. But with Bellibolt, I think it's a fun looking design, and I do like the whole electricity thing going on its stomach, and I think that's really quite cool. For number 4 is Graveard. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. So Graveard, I think, is a really cool and adorable looking Pokemon just because it's basically a ghost dog. And when I first saw the design, I thought it was going to be a fire ghost type Pokemon, just because it's got this candle on the top of its head. But no, it's just a ghost type. And even though I like the design of Graveard, I really wish it had the fire type because that could possibly work maybe. But I don't really mind about that. So Graveard is basically a ghost dog, and I think that's really cool because there haven't been a lot of dog designs, I believe, from what I remember. Because we've got like Houndoom, Houndour, Lucario maybe. Lucario might be a dog-looking Pokemon, and there might be several other dog-looking Pokemon. But with Graveard, it's a really interesting design, and I do like how when it evolves, it loses the candle and it gets a gravestone on its head. So I think it's quite cool. and the hair on it looks really cool. I think it suits the Pokemon well. In terms of it just looks like a dog that never got a haircut. I think that's quite cool and fun and interesting. And yeah, I think it's just a really cool Pokemon just because it looks like a ghost dog, and that's really fun. And I really do hope that in future generations we can get more interesting looking dog-looking Pokemon like Graveyard. For number 3 is Pawmot. Now, Pawmot, I would say, it's really amazing looking like electric fighting type because it looks so cool. Because I think it handles both types really well. Like it's got the electric type, it's got this little lightning bolt on its back or for its tail, and it's got the yellow fur and the bits of hair sticking up. And for the fighting type, I think even though it's not resembling a fighting type in a sense, in terms of how Infernape is a part fighting type and how Lucario is a fighting type, but with Pawmot, I think it suits it quite well. It's got these jangly kind of arms that sway side to side in a bit, and I think this is a really fun looking Pokemon, but it does look a bit too human. It almost looks too human, but it looks fun. I don't really mind it. It's still a fun looking Pokemon. I have one on my team just because it looks adorable, and I think that this entire line from Paw Ma, I think it's Paw Ma, then Paw Mo, then Pawmot, and yeah, I think the entire Pawmot line is very fun and adorable, and just like using mine on my team. For number 2 is Skeledridge. I believe I'm saying that right. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. I'm very sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But this is the final evolved form of the fire starter. And with Skeledridge, I think this is a very cool looking Pokemon. Just because it's basically this fire ghost crocodile. Kind of like how Graveyard is a ghost dog. And with Skeledridge, it's basically a fire ghost crocodile, and it's a really cool design because I do like the whole fire that's going around its mouth here, and I do like how I think in its Pokédex entry it says something about it using songs to bring in birds or something. That's a really cool, I think, bit of a really cool looking entry in this Pokédex, and I do like its only specific move that it can use, kind of like how Greninja had Water Shark and stuff like that, where it's got it basically brings out this little sort of fire music stand thing, and it shoots a bird made out of fire. That's really cool, and it also helps raise its special attack, I believe, and it's a really cool design. I love the particular move, and I really do how it just goes on all fours, and that's a really fun thing for Pokemon to do. Because if you look at its first form, it's basically just a small fire crocodile. Then it becomes a much larger crocodile, but with those two designs are basically just on its legs. It's kind of like a half dinosaur, half crocodile kind of thing. But then when you get Skeledridge, it becomes a full-on crocodile, and it's just on all four legs, and it's perfect. I think this is a perfect design for this fire starter. I've forgotten the first form of the fire starter, but I think it's really cool, and it's just a really cool, interesting design. And for number 1 is Kingambit. Now, Kingambit is the final form for Bishop, who up until Scarlet and Violet didn't have a final form. It was just Pawniard and Bishop. And with Kingambit, I really like the continuation of Bishop, because from what I've seen, what I saw a comment about Kingambit I saw a while ago, is that if you look at Pawniard, Bishop, and Kingambit, they kind of look like chess pieces, with Pawniard being the pawn, Bishop being the bishop, and Kingambit being the king. That's really cool. Those are really cool. And for Kingambit, it kind of reminds me of the Traveler from God of War 2018, just because it's got a sort of bulky design when you see with the Traveler with their armor on. And I do like how the sword it has. It's like very long and sharp, and I do like how it's this like bulky steel dark type Pokemon, and how the blades around its chest area are quite thin but look razor sharp. And I do like the whole cloak that it's got. I think it's a really cool design for King Ambit to have a cloak, and also it's got blades around his face that resemble a mustache, which I think is quite cool, and it's just a really cool looking design. And King Ambit, I think, is a nice addition to the Bisharp line, and I think it's just a very fun Pokemon to use, because of how bulky it can be, and how you might want to use King Ambit. And yeah, I think it's just a really fun looking Pokemon. So that's been my top 5 favourite Generation 9 Pokemon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.